Jam 10.02, saya mulai. Bisa ya? Oke. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm happy that you are here with us today at the third SRS-TEFLIN Webinar, doing ELT Research and Publication in the New Normal, Opportunities and Challenges. I would like to open this webinar by first of all expressing my deepest gratitude to the coordinator of SRS-TEFLIN, Ibu Huzaimah Dim, EDD, for her continuous dedication toward English education in Southern Sumatra through her ideas and leadership in SRS-TEFLIN activities. My gratitude also goes to our wonderful presenters, Ibu Nelly Martin, PhD, Ibu Dr. Rita Indrawati, and Bapak Sony Mirizon, EDD, for their willingness to share insights and experience. Sari Silviani, PhD, Novalingga Pitoloka, MPD, Rizky Aginia, SPD, Nyimas Larasati, SPD, and Hari Utama Putra, SPD, for their hard work, dedication, time, and effort in making this webinar possible. Last but not least, my gratitude goes to each and every one of our attendees for joining us. I hope this webinar will give us much knowledge in developing the field of English language teaching, especially in this era of uncertainty. I'm happy to inform that today's webinar attracted over 500 registrants from all over Indonesia and abroad. Our registrants are professors, lecturers, researchers, and students from various institutions in Indonesia and abroad. Our registrants are requested to fill an attendance form through the link provided in the chat box to record your attendance. You will receive an e-certificate made uniquely for you. We hope you will enjoy the webinar. May God bless us all and help us so that the webinar runs smoothly. Amen. Amin ya Rabbal Alamin.
Amen.
So before we start the presentation session, I cordially invite the coordinator of SRS-TEFLIN, Ibu Huzaimah Dim, EDD, to address a welcoming remark. Ibu Huzai, the Zoom floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Tanti.
Yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce myself. I am Huzaimah Dahlandim, the coordinator of the Southern Region of Sumatra chapter of the Association for the Teaching of English in Indonesia. As the coordinator of SRS-TEFLIN, I would like to say a few words to warmly welcome everyone to this webinar and to show my greatest appreciation. First of all, to our presenters, I am thrilled that Dr. Nelly Martin Anatias, a linguist and a young researcher at Auckland University of Technology, Auckland, New Zealand, responded to our third webinar invitation enthusiastically. Alhamdulillah, she agreed to become the main speaker, and she is here with us virtually, safe and sound. I personally hope that with her experiences doing research and publishing both in Indonesia and abroad, she would give the participants, especially graduate students and novice researchers, new insights and tips around research and publication, which are not as scary as most of them have thought. Then, to our beloved TEFLIN colleagues, Dr. Sony Mirizon and Dr. Rita Indrawati, both of whom are from Sriwijaya University. I'm happy that they are able to present at this webinar this year. I'm sure most TEFLINers and the other participants cannot wait to listen to their new best practices of research in ELT from either policy making, possible problem solving, up to learning products through their research development during this COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, please let me inform you a little bit about our SRS-TEFLIN conferences. For 9 years, until last year, SRS-TEFLIN always held face-to-face annual conferences to facilitate university educators, school teachers, and graduate students to share ideas and discuss current issues to find solutions to pedagogical as well as professional problems. In particular, and language education in general. This year, however, we have been holding seminars in the form of webinar series and this is the third webinar, the second to last, as we are going to have another one in December this year. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not easy to keep the webinars work as expected due to some constraints, such as not only in designing everything from scratch, but also the time availability of those in charge, because either as faculty members or graduate students, there is no day for them without virtual activities during this pandemic. Well, we have just no choice. However, since all of the team members are very committed to this lovely association, and with also moral support from the president of TEFLIN and our friends from the TEFLIN board, the heavy burden becomes light and has even been very enjoyable, and inshallah becomes or results in a fruitful outcome. Therefore, to all of the committee members, the third webinar coordinator, Dr. Artanti Puspitasari, the moderator, Dr. Sari Silviani, the web designer, Hari Utama Putra, the Zoom operators, Nimas Larasati and Rizky Ajinia, and the administration officer, Nova Lingga Vitaloka. From the bottom of my heart, I'm very grateful for their commitment and hard work. Last but not least, to all participants, I wish you good luck and please enjoy your webinar today. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning and good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Ibu Zaima, for the warm, welcoming remark. Now I will hand over the webinar to Ibu Sari Silviani, PhD, as the moderator of the presentation session. Ibu Sari is a lecturer at Sriwijaya University. She is now co-editing a book entitled Researching Multilingually with Beth Samuelson, PhD, of Indiana University of Bloomington. The book is expected to be published by Multilingual Matters in United Kingdom next year. So we are really looking forward to it. And success to Ibu Sari for the book. Ibu Sari, I will hand the webinar to you. The Zoom floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Artantisari, for a very kind introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. First of all, allow me to welcome the presenters who will be sharing their ideas and experiences with us today. I would also like to welcome all the participants of the third Southern region of Sumatra TEFLIN webinar. Welcome back to everyone who have joined us in our previous webinars, and also to the participant who has just gotten the chance to join our third webinar today. Before I introduce our presenters, I would like to explain some rules for the webinar. First, in order to receive the certificate, you need to fill out the attendance form that we have shared in the chat box. Later on, at the end of the presentations, we will also provide the exit ticket in the form of feedback, in the form of feedback form for all of you to fill out. All right, now it's time to begin our first session. I'm honored to welcome and introduce my fellow Fulbright alumni, Dr. Nelly Martin Anatias. Dr. Nelly Martin Anatias earned her doctoral degree at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, USA, majoring in second language acquisition. She is now a researcher at Auckland University of Technology. Her research interests include language and identity, code switching, translanguaging, textual analysis, discourse. She received her master's degree from the Department of Linguistics at Ohio University, USA. Some of her work had been published in international journal, for example, in World Englishes, the title Bahasa Gado-Gado, English in Indonesian Popular Text, and also her autoethnography has been published in the Journal of Humanity and Society. Another interesting fact is that she's also not just writing in academic forum, but she also has published several novels, as well as writing in a popular website, The Conversation. So you can check out the details of her publication in the website and browse her for the novel that she has published. All right, without further ado, let's listen to Dr. Nelly Martin Anatias' presentation. The Zoom floor is yours, Nelly.
Oh, thank you so much, Sari, Ibu Sari, Ibu Dr. Sari, for a very kind introduction. Kia ora, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore waktu New Zealand dan selamat pagi ya di Indonesia. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been an honor to have received this invitation when Ibu Dr. Sari and Ibu Tanti messaged me on WhatsApp and then asked me whether I'm available. And it's been my pleasure to present today, albeit virtually, hopefully someday, right after we overcome this global pandemic, we will be able to see each other in person. And thank you so much for Ibu Professor Kuzaima for the warm greetings and welcome remarks. And also for my fellow speakers, Ibu Dr. Rita Indrawati and Bapak Dr. Sony Mirizon. So I will just treat this presentation as a space for me to share what I have done and what I'm envisioning myself as a researcher during this global pandemic. So hopefully in this webinar, we can learn from each other. And then if you have any questions or comments and feedback, I will be very happy to receive that, because this is also my learning journey. I always treat my interaction with other people as a learning journey so that I can enrich myself and improve myself as well. So the agenda that I wanted to focus for this webinar is that I wanted to put myself and see this global pandemic from at least from two different points of my identities. Well, we all know that we have so many layers of identities in our life, right? But then only for this particular section and this particular context, I wanted to see this global pandemic from my identity as a socio-cultural and anthropological linguist. And then another one is that as a second language or a foreign language teacher or educator. And then later on, I will see how these layers of identities can help me and hopefully can give some information or knowledge to the participants here so that we can think about how to approach this pandemic from at least these two focal points of our identities, and how we need to recognize these challenges and turns them into the opportunities. And then later on, I might be able to suggest some a number of research that may be able that you guys can do. Okay, so as a social or cultural and anthropological linguist, when I learned about this global pandemic and then how this global pandemic has affected the world, and then in my position in New Zealand as an Indonesian in New Zealand, I keep thinking about what is the importance of this issue and how can I approach this from my perspective of coming from my identity as a linguist, and what interests me and how do I see it. These all layers will help me later on when I'm approaching some language artifact or language practice, and help me later on when I'm grounding and writing my own research. I'm going to give you an example after this. And then not only my perspective or my identity as a social, cultural, and anthropological linguist, I'm also approaching this global pandemic and also what happened in my surrounding, living in Auckland, New Zealand, and when we have to go through the national lockdown, how can I see this from my identity as a language educator? So I relate this not only personally, but also professionally, and how I can help my students overcome or achieve their goal as a language learner. I'm going to share some of the examples later. So when I learned about this global pandemic back in March and how the world needs to shift or needs to change, and this change has affected Auckland and New Zealand, I'm thinking about, so as a human being, our movement has been restricted. So we never thought about that restrictions can happen in such a global way. But then only after I, or maybe in my colleagues and everyone in New Zealand has been through this global pandemic, I'm thinking, so if there's something going on with the world and we cannot go outside, and I needed to teach from my own study, my own room, and I cannot see my students, how can I turn these challenges into into research? So that's the thing that I've been doing. How can I respond to this? And then what kind of languages that have been used? So I'm thinking from a very macro point of view first, and then later on I moved from the macro point of view to the micro point of view. So from very global to very local, and then I put languages because this has been my area of research, and this has been my area of interest. How languages during the global pandemic have been shifted and have been infected because of this global pandemic. And in addition to that, I'm also thinking about how my students can use. I'm going to talk about my students later. So as a social linguist, when I learned about that New Zealand at that time had to go through a national lockdown starting from May until mid-May. So I'm going to give you some background first. What does it mean to be in living in national lockdown for New Zealanders? So we needed to live in different kinds of level 4 and level 3. So meaning that it's really strict, the restriction is really strict. We needed to stay inside at home 24/7. Closes are schools are closed and universities are closed. So in my identity as a teacher, I needed to teach from my study. So I can no longer see my students and then do the teaching in a traditional practice. So what does it mean? So, and then I feel like rather than thinking this one, well, it is a challenge for me as a teacher, but then at the same time, when I look around, I learned that, oh, okay, I'm a social linguist. So what's important for me is that language is very important for me. So I'm starting to collect all the governments coming from the New Zealand government have done in order to socialize what New Zealand lockdown means, and as a means of to deliver the information for their citizens. So I started to because even though we do live in a national lockdown and we needed to stay inside, we are allowed to go outside to do jogging solitarily or together with our bubble. And later on, I will come back to what's the meaning of bubble. Bubble is just like someone who lives with us or our family during the national lockdown. So I started to collect all the pictures that the government have put in in the bus, in the public transportation, in the bus stop, and then also in the on the streets and on the roads, you know. And then after I've collected about like 200 or maybe more or maybe 300, because I've been collecting from level 4, level 3, level 2, and then level 1. And later on, after I'm collecting these all pictures, I treated them as data. Okay, so I treated them as data, and then I'm approaching this from a very critical point of view. I'm thinking about, okay, like for example, I'll give you an example. So like be kind. What does the meaning of be kind? Again, because I'm a social linguist, so I feel like analyzing language or languaging is very important for me. And then I was thinking, how about if I approach this from a critical discourse analysis, for example. So I'm looking at, for example, the word be kind and then the word elderly and vulnerable. What does it mean? So I'm not looking this only as a linguistic entity, but I also put my social and cultural and political context into it. So the meaning of be kind, not only saying that the New Zealand government is, okay. So there are two things that I approach first. Linguistically, be kind. Be kind is, if we use, if you are familiar with Farklo, be kind is an imperative language. Okay, so the meaning of imperative language, meaning that the person who is saying that is someone with more power. So there is some hierarchical power or superior power that that the government used to talk with the citizens. So the imperative language is used. So that's the meaning of the use of imperative. The government is trying to project themselves as a powerful entity, but then at the second time, at the second layer, okay, not only that they wanted to project themselves as a person with more entity, the second layer is that they wanted to make sure that even though we are more powerful, but we want you to be kind and be very attentive to our elderly and vulnerable. And what does it mean? The way I see it is that I'm looking at this not only as a person, but also as an Indonesian who lives in New Zealand and who lives in, used to live in United States. These all identities have informed me, because the way I see things may be different from other Kiwi or other New Zealander who has never been to Indonesia or who has never been to United States, for example. So the way I see it is that, oh, okay, so from the government's languaging, the New Zealand government is trying to be very formal and to say something in a more powerful way, but then at the same time, they are treating us as a human being, you know, from the word choice like elderly or vulnerable. Okay, so for me, like I was trying to shift all the challenges because I cannot go outside, but then I'm looking at this. I'm turning this opportunity during the global pandemic into a study or into my research that I can publish. And another thing is that I'm also looking at how not only the New Zealand government tried to deliver or convey the message during the global pandemic, but also how the citizen tries to comply and tries to follow and to participate in this global pandemic as well. So if you see the differences, the first one is coming from the government, the New Zealand government, and you can see the difference, you know, like the government here. And then this is coming from the private spheres, from the private or businesses. Okay, what does it mean? So I'm looking at this from the citizen participation framework from Appadurai, a famous anthropologist, and also Tranka, one of my colleagues. We've been doing research together in this COVID. So the way I see it is that during this global pandemic, as a social linguist, I'm looking at this in a very critical way on how to see the languaging used by the government, the New Zealand government, and at the same time by the citizen of New Zealand. Okay, so that is one of the examples that I can give or I can share with you on how to approach or on how to turn these global challenges or this global pandemic into an opportunity as a researcher so that we can write something. So now think for a moment, have you tried to see around you or observe around you? Have you, during this global pandemic, how does the Indonesian government try to communicate with their citizen, for example, and go outside, for example, and take some pictures and try to collect all the pictures related to COVID-19, for example. How do the people respond, and how do the people try to are they trying to resist the government's instructions, for example, and how do the government try to embrace or how to communicate this global pandemic for our community, for our society. So that's something that you can do as a social linguist. I know that maybe some of you may not realize that a language teacher is actually also a linguist, you know, by training, because we learn about language. So that may be something that you can do. So go outside and then try to see and try to observe from surrounding, from your environment, how do the local government react and respond to this global pandemic? How do they use the language? And then how do the people living around you or living in your community has participated or have responded to this global pandemic? And do some observation, listen, and if you wanted to, you can do some interview, and then you can change it into research later on. And I've done that. And currently, I'm also together with my colleague actually from Malang, Dr. Nurenzia Yanwar. I think she's here. We are trying to do this linguistic landscape during the pandemic. So we are trying to analyze the pictures and all the government, and together with the citizens reactions or communication or signs produced during this global pandemic from a very critical point of view, while I'm collecting from Auckland and she's collecting from Malang. And we are going to see how the languaging is being used during this global pandemic. So I'm using one of the definition here coming from Laundrie and Borges. Well, these two researchers, they are like the founding fathers of linguistics landscape. So this is the definition that I'm using, the feasibility and salience of languages on public and commercial science in a given territory or region. So, and then for our research, we are looking at it specifically during the pandemic, because we do believe that the language will be very different, you know, because the language will be like a kind of like response to this global pandemic, but then it will be very different. Not on it is global, so the pandemic is global, but then at the same time, I believe that the linguistics practice is locally different, and that's what my interest is. And this is one of my I don't think I can share too much here because of the time, but this is one of my writing that I have published in the conversation about linguistic landscape in New Zealand, in Auckland. And right now I'm also waiting for one of my books manuscript that will be published, in which I'm looking at how Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, is using Instagram and Facebook when delivering and communicating COVID-19 to their to her fellow citizens. So that's another thing that you can also do. Not only as a teacher, as a social linguist, you can do that, like go outside and try to observe what's going on around you, and then try to make some observation as thick as possible and turn that into some research publication, you know. So now I feel like if we give our time, some sufficient time to reflect, you know, how much have we observed so far, and how much our reflection has helped us in our own research, for example. So subjectivity, again, I'm a critical qualitative researcher. So for me, subjectivity is really important, because I do believe that my position as Indonesian living in New Zealand, who has been educated in United States, will propose a different layer from an Indonesian who live in other country, for example, or the way I see things will be different from my other Kiwi, my New Zealander colleague, who has never been to United States, or who is not coming from Indonesia, for example. So like in my research, in which I see or I analyze Jacinda Ardern's permanent Prime Minister of New Zealand, I use my insider's observation or my insider's intuition as an Indonesian, because I do know, or I do, I'm aware that the government in Indonesia is totally different from the government in New Zealand in responding this global pandemic. And I use that when grounding the analysis, so that my analysis is nuanced and it's very subjective, and that's fine, because it will be very different with my other colleague who doesn't have any Indonesian insider. I hope it makes sense. So what I wanted to say is that subjectivity in critical and qualitative research is actually valued. It's not something that you can avoid. It's actually enriching in our analysis, because our intuition as an insider as an Indonesian will be very different from other colleagues coming from a different social background, okay? And now as a teacher, in our classroom, as a language educator, have we noticed our students during this pandemic? Think about them as a human being, as a full human being, not only cognitively, not only linguistically, but also them as a human being who has all the social aspects in them. Okay, so because I feel like, well, I'm not saying that it's only your problem, because it is also my problem. I often take my students for granted. So whenever they come to class, I feel like I need to, I just wanted them to be ready for my class, but then I sometimes forgot, or I sometimes oversee that they may be, well, especially during this global pandemic, they may have their own problems. They bring their own social and psychological problems, because this is the hard time not only for us but also for everyone. And to turn that challenges into our to give some opportunities for our research, I give you some maybe some insight, you know. So I'm approaching language again not only as a linguistic system but also as a social practice in which identities and desires are negotiated. If we are looking at this, okay, if we are using this definition, and how can we put that in our research opportunities? For example, I wanted to see as well, language is also about resources. So you can imagine, maybe if you haven't yet, try to think about our students coming to our class, you know, and then English is not even their second language. English for many Indonesian is still a foreign language. So maybe for us, because we speak English and we just take it easy, oh yeah, everyone can speak English. We forgot that everyone, our students, they have their own challenges. So in addition to the global pandemic, that is one challenge, they already have their own challenge to begin with, you know. So that's another thing that we can think of, and we can change them or turn them into our research. So think about the resources that are being compromised and negotiated, especially during this pandemic. What are things that they don't have, and then what are things that they have that have already impacted their language learning, for example. So what resources do they have to achieve this goal in order to speak English, or as a foreign, as a learners of English as a foreign language, okay? And then think about how does this pandemic affect them in achieving this language learning, okay? So that's the thing that I feel like maybe we as a teacher, sometimes we just wanted to make sure that all is well, and sometimes we maybe we choose not to think from their perspective, okay? But then now that we are in this difficult time, maybe it's time for us to think from their shoes, you know, like what does my students difficulties, especially during this global pandemic, and how this languaging during another thing that I can give as well is that how is the languaging during the pandemic, during the online interaction in class with you as a teacher, and peer communication have changed, for example, because we are no longer able to teach on a traditional face-to-face classroom, right? Meaning the dynamic is already different, right? Because we needed to move from our traditional class to this digital platform, okay? So in that space alone, we can see that it's already different to begin with. So that's something we as a teacher can do, you know, like what are the troubles or what are the changes that have happened between me and my students using this online platform, and how about them? How does the interaction between students have changed during this using this online platform, for example? Because it may be very different, and I can say that it will be very different from the traditional platform. Okay, I hope that I make sense. And yeah, and if I can give you some frameworks to think about, you can use like the social aspect in social language acquisition, because social language acquisition has been heavily criticized as a quantitative or cognitive approach. We tend to forget the social part or the psychological part of our students. So maybe that's something that you can think of, especially during this global pandemic. Think from our students' point of view. And another thing that that I can also suggest is that use the investment. You can also see how the students' investment is not motivation, it's a bit different. How the students' investment in learning English as a foreign language has shifted or has changed during this global pandemic, among other areas. So that may be something that we can think of. So what can we take from here? What can we take from here? So we do need to observe, you know. So from what I have already said from early on, okay, so this is a very difficult time for many of us, if not all of us. So it is challenging, but then how can we shift this challenge into an opportunity? Listen, observe, reflect, you know, and try to write the daily diaries, things that you observe from your surrounding, from your classroom, the digital classroom that is no longer face-to-face, you know, and then you can make use of those observation, those reflection, those observation as a data, and then you can later write it on and publish as your publication. So this is just my ideas. So maybe it can enlighten some of you, if not all of you. So we may be able to write something for our research, investigating the student difficulties during this pandemic from the student's point of view, the investment, and we can do the ethnography, but the ethnography is different now. It's no longer in the traditional classroom. It will be the digital ethnography, okay, in ESL or EFL classroom. And how much their investment towards language learning has changed during this time of trouble, and despite all the challenges, how do our students maintain their motivation and their investment in learning EFL, for example. And another thing is that as an educator and as a teacher, you can also use the data when you found or when you face some challenges or some problems during your digital or online teaching, write it down as part of your diary. That becomes your data, and you can turn that into autoethnography. So maybe later on in our next session, we can talk about what autoethnography is. I will be very happy to share this one as well. And then we can also do some other research with other fellow teachers. We can compare what are the similarities and challenge and differences as fellow teacher during this global pandemic, teaching the students using this digital platform. We can do interview, one-on-one interview, or maybe a group focus, for example. So that's some of the ideas that I can think of, and yeah, hopefully it can give some ideas to many of you, if not all of you. So now, can I welcome some questions, or I needed to wait because I know that some people, they have raised their hands.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Nelly. We can continue with the question and answers session. In fact, we already have some questions from the participants that we received in the question and answer box. So for all other participants, as you listen to the presenters today, you are welcome to type in the questions directly in our question and answer box, and then we will address and discuss the questions in after the presentation. But we will continue with the first questions. The first question from our participant today for Ibu Nelly. This is the first one. A question for all the panelists, but let's begin with Ibu Nelly today. What have been changing in English language teaching during pandemic and in general ELT changes which match Generation Z students? Yeah, please, Bu Nelly.
Okay, what have been changing? That okay, I think this will be a very good research question.
Yeah,
this will be a very good research question.
It's already a problem to
it's
worth
already a
studying.
problem. Yes. So Ibu Novia Nur Ikhlasia, I think you have that research question to begin with. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm glad that I have already encouraged at least one of you to think about one research question. That is a research question to begin with.
Right. Yeah. In relation to what Ibu Nelly has explained about observing your surrounding, observing your own classroom, and this is something that I think reflects Ibu Novia's observation of her classroom. Exactly. All right. Maybe we can move to the next question. Nova, can you scroll up to the next question? Okay. What kind of research do you conduct, Bu Nelly? What research instrument do you use, and what analysis do you apply?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like what I mentioned early on, I'm a critical qualitative researcher. So my my research, well, my kind of research is qualitative and it's very critical. So, and then the instrument is that, okay, this is coming from a very quantitative point of view, instrument. Okay, I'm approaching my data usually using the critical discourse analysis. So I'm situating or treating language not only as a linguistic entity, but also as a social, cultural, and political entity, meaning that language will be very, as much as the language can be very global, it can be very local at the same time, because it can reveal our social, cultural, and political point of view and practices as well. And what analysis? Textual analysis or critical discourse analysis.
Okay. This is the last one for this session. And of course, when we have time at the end, there will be more opportunities for discussion. Okay, this is from Ibu Indah Arintina. How to make the students understand about the lesson given by the teacher via online, especially for lower class, such as primary 1 students.
I think this one is beyond, yeah, I think it's beyond the scope that I'm
the discussion.
The discussion. But again, this is another important question that Ibu Indah actually can do for her own research.
Right. So it's actually something that you can follow up, Ibu Indah,
exactly.
as that triggers you know, research project later on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, one more. And after this, we will continue with second presenter. Okay, this is from Pak Karwandi. How do we conduct our research in this pandemic? Because we find it difficult to collect the data.
Yeah, so our mindset needed to be changed as well. The world is changing, so our mindset needs to be changing as well. So for sure, it will be difficult if we are thinking of research in the classroom, in a traditional classroom. But then, now that we shifted to this, this digital platform, think about how to collect the data using Zoom, using Google Drive. I've been, Google File, for example. I've been researching, or I've been conducting research using Zoom. So it will be very difficult if we are thinking from the old perspective. But then, as the world is changing, our mindset needs to be changing as well. And I think I have already given you some example before, like use Zoom, for example, or whatever platform that you are using, or analyze the chats that you received from your students on your Facebook Messenger, or on your WhatsApp Messenger, for example. That can be very rich of data as well, actually, because it's ethnography. And at the same time, if you wanted to use as the auto ethnography, you can use that as well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Bu Nelly. All of this question has inspired us to follow up with your insights and research experiences. And now I'm going to move to the second presenter. But before we do that, I would like to remind you to, if you have not done so, please fill out the Google form for your attendance. And again, if you have any questions, you don't have to wait until the end of the second presentation. You can always type in your question in the Q&A box. All right, now let me continue to our second session. Our second presenter today is my colleague from English Education Study Program, Sriwijaya University. Welcome, Dr. Rita Indrawati. Dr. Rita Indrawati received both her doctoral and master's degree from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, UPI Bandung. Her research interests include the teaching of literature, academic writing, and literacy and textbook development. She has extensive experience in international research collaboration. She was a principal investigator in the collaborative research with Queensland University of Technology, Deakin University, and Flinders University. She was a research reviewer for the Indonesian Directorate of Higher Education from 2009 to 2014. Okay, Ibu Rita, the Zoom floor is yours for the next 30 minutes. Ibu Rita, whenever you're ready, you can start your presentation.
Unmute. What about now, Bu Sari? Can you see my slide?
Yeah, we could see your slide and just your sound. Just okay, wondering. Right now, we can hear you very clearly. Go ahead, please start from the beginning.
Okay, thank you. Well, let me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Morning, everybody. Let me start my presentation by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much to our beloved mom, dear Professor Huzaimah, as the SRS-TEFLIN coordinator, and also our beloved lecturers, yeah, and who give me the opportunity to present in this amazing webinar. And I also to thank you, my great colleague, Dr. Sari Silviani, and Ibu Dr. Artanti Sari, who always contact me in terms of doing this presentation. So now we can meet each other now. And I would like to welcome Ibu Nelly Martin from Auckland University to be in Palembang, even though only from here, yeah, from the Zoom. Next, I'd like to address my big thanks to all the audience that I know, perhaps, and maybe I don't know. So welcome from me to the Palembang, from Universitas Sriwijaya, in order to present exploring and producing learning products for ELT through development research amid this new normal. Well, who is she? You don't know, you don't have to read. Yeah, it is just a gift for you later on, and Ibu Sari has introduced me. Okay, now it is our agenda. From this agenda, there are 6 points that I will share with you. And now I would like to know what comes up in your mind when we start to do research for your final, for the student, for your final work, and for us as lecturer for our research in this normal era, in this new normal era, I mean. Is it possible? How come? Social distance happened to us now. And campuses are closed also, the schools. Now, let's start from the first slide. The third slide, I mean, it is how do we conducted the research amid the new normal. Here is the new normal, that conducting the scrutiny. So whether it is possible. We are now amid the new normal era. So were we amid the normal or abnormal era before? Well, I think before COVID-19 outbreak, we lived normally. However, now we must keep running the normal activities, of course, with some prerequisites, of course. We have to implement the health protocol, yeah, by using masker, doing social distance, washing our hands always. And in order to do research in this new normal, we must be adaptable, rethinking, be more inclusive, showing our flexibility, and also building rapport here. So here, to be more inclusive, I mean, here is very vital. Inclusion here is a set of measures that both large and small, that we can easily integrate it professionally and into everyday life. So good news here that the improvement is easy and change always starts from us. So every change must be from us. Other good points of doing research amid this new normal are showing the flexibility. I mean that don't be too tough to others. And the most important one is building rapport to those who will be our partner, that is the research subjects. Well, in spite of having these possibilities from adapting up to building the rapport, so we still face some obstacle in doing the investigation, of course. They are, the next slide you can see, the problems that not problems that we will face. The first one is insight research is difficult. It is realized that it is difficult, yeah, to do the research inside. The second one, the direct observation is forbidden. No misspelling, no observation we can do directly. So how come we do the research later on, I will tell you. And the next difficulties is difficulties in, it is closed by the face, so sorry. So difficulties to do the interview. Well, no interview we can do because of the social distance. And there is no also, no interview anymore. So the other one is the lack of society participation, even no participants at all. Therefore, we need to do the, problem with the next PowerPoint. Oh yeah, this one. Okay, so now let's see, we exploring the research. From what topic? Yeah, we start from what topic? So here the topic that I try to share with you, the first one is the current learning modes, as Ibu Nelly Martin said, yeah, doing research on current learning modes. For example, synchronous learning, asynchronous learning, innovative learning, and blended learning. The other topics that I would like to share with you is how will you do research on the 21st century learning in terms of the 4 competencies that you can observe, or you can do the research on the learning activities, and then the learning materials is okay, whether the learning materials have something to do with the 21st century learning, or the worksheet also, and you can also create the textbook for SMA, SMP, or vocational students. And it is done by using qualitative and quantitative research paradigm. And the next, how will we do the research? As Bu Nelly Martin said, there are many. So we have to leave the old paradigm of conducting research. The new paradigms of conducting research, there are many things. But I would like to remind you that we have to build the rapport. It is technological era. And where should we do the research? We can do online learning mode at junior high school, senior high school, and vocational school, also higher education, of course. And here is the examples of S1 students' research that she conducted in my class actually. The topic she chose was the implementation of 4 competencies in the essay writing course. And the location was at higher education at Sriwijaya University and in essay class. She collected the data by sending the questionnaire through Google Form by the help of Google, and asked the lecturer who taught the essay to invite her to the Facebook group. And in the Facebook group, she could find appropriate data for her study. There are many, because every meeting, the lecturer make the meeting, and then it is easy to be identified like this. And the result of the study, she reported that the 4 C's, I mean that the collaboration, creativity, communication, and the critical thinking happens in the essay class. So it is the research from S1 students. So she focused on these 4, but I don't know exactly how many percent of every competence that she could find. It will be another experiment. It will be another research can be done by everybody. And now here is the demanding of the curriculum. You know that as we look at the previous slide in which the study focused on the technology devices, it is due to the demand of the curriculum, the new curriculum. And the curriculums happen to higher education, we call KKNI. It stands for Kurikulum Kerangka Kerja Nasional Indonesia. So here, by using this KKNI, students in undergraduate level should at least apply the ICT to solve the problems, to apply that one. However, for graduate school students, for master and doctoral program students, they have to create something innovative and empirical through the research by developing the art, science, technology, and appropriate to their expertise. And now I would like to introduce development research. It is another research. It is another qualitative research which is appropriate for S2 program, not for S3 program. So therefore, I would like to start with this one, whether development research similar to research and development, they are different, of course, because I have written here verses. So what the researcher have to find out through the development research are the three things here: the validity, the practicality, and the potential effect. So every component must be done by the researcher when they do the research. Here, for example, by validity, the use of language, okay, the use of language and all relevant and component. I mean that the collected component must be in the basis of the research design level. Meanwhile, for this practicality, it must be in normal situation. If the learning product produced from this research consistent, it means that the product has good potential effect. And here is the development research. It is one of the educational field, research that can be done in the educational field. And the intervention must be done through the procedure by Eckert in 1999. And the intervention, I mean that the research will become the solution to the problem faced by the students, by the teacher, in terms of the products, the syllabus, the teaching materials, and others. And there are three phases actually in doing the procedure: the analysis phase, the design phase, and the evaluation and revision phase. So I would like to explain one by one here. In analysis phase, a researcher will conduct three analyses involving instructional analysis, students' needs analysis, and students' functional reading level analysis, if we talk about analysis. And in design phase, the reading material for tourist majoring, for example, because I have done research on this vocational school, will be designed and developed by considering the result of the analysis done here. As the result of the needs analysis that the researcher get the data from the questionnaire distributed to the research subject. Well, sorry, in designing the product, the material will be presented in printed or paper-based design. For example, the reading material will be based on the curriculum. The curriculum now is curriculum 2013, of course. And think of what genre of reading text will be developed. And the instructional reading material will be also provided with some question, of course, and not only the text, but also the multiple choice questions to the students. And during the evaluation and revision phase, the formative evaluation here, as proposed by Tesmer, will be applied in order to have an effective product. Yeah, so here is to find out the effective product. The formative evaluation is needed to conduct a problem finding part of design and product development process to improve the quality of the product. Here, for example, the reading material, the quality of the product, okay? The product, I mean that the reading material developed through this research determined by the 3 criteria, the validity, the practicality, and the potential effect. So it is the phase of development research procedure. So the researcher will follow this procedure easily, actually, yeah? So if you know the strategy, it will be easy to do that. And this one, the research subject, talking about the research subject, who will be our research subject? Yeah, you can employ one class for SMP, SMA, or vocational school students. Yeah, around 35 for one class, for example. And there are 3 stages of formative evaluation. We said formative evaluation, not formative test, yeah? One-to-one evaluation here, meaning that there are only 3 students at the first time we go to the field, yeah? And the 3 students must be in 3 criteria, must included in 3 categories: the low, the high, and the medium English proficiency. So in order to know the students' English proficiency, we have to use a set of instruments by Jennings. I forget the name. Jennings reading. Professor Huzaima will know exactly about this one. Yeah. The next is small group evaluation. In small group, after we have done the research on these 3 students, we go to small group discussion from that school, from that class. Only 9 students, but we have to 3. Each category must have 3 students, high, low, and medium. And the last, for the field test, there are around 23 students if the students only 35. So only these students will be tested through the field test. And how to collect the data? The first one is by using questionnaire, and the questionnaire will be reviewed by the expert, of course. And the expert will focus on the content, language, and social design, and the students focus on the practicality. The other data collection is semi-structured interview, as can be done in one-to-one and small group. Only here, only to one-to-one evaluation and small group discussion. And the last is reading comprehension. It is the way we collected the data, and this is the way we analyze the data. So it is the score, the category, in order to fulfill the validity, the practicality, and the effect, potential effect of the developed materials that we did it through, that we will do it through the research development. I mean development research. Okay, the next, sorry, it is close, yeah. So it is the way how my students and me myself collected the data by using video conference. Yes, she is, I forget the name. She is one of my students from Bangka, yeah, Nur Aziza. Did her development research there by using a video conference from Facebook, from WhatsApp, and then Google Meet, also Google Plus. Yeah, I mean that the Google Class that she used at the time. In this normal, yeah, in this new normal, she did it. And here is my research and my team. When the current one, it is with Utah Utah State University. He is Ryan Knowles, our team from America, from USU, Utah State University, and the other ones, my college under this research. And we have met twice through this Zoom. Actually, we would like to go to America on last April, but because of pandemic, we postponed that one, perhaps next year, or perhaps no, only through Zoom like this. And this one, another research also, that the way we collect the data, yeah, through Zoom, by distributing this one, and then the student will do it, and we can observe them directly in this new normal. And the other one, it is the examples of the students' research. They have finished doing this research, yeah, from Aziza, Herawati, Cesaria, it is Kananda, and Herianti. They focus on development research. And you see here, the word developing always been at the beginning of the title. Is it okay if we put the word developing another place in the title? Of course we can, yeah. So we can put developing to here, for example, or we put the word developing here near the culture. So the title become Instructional Descriptive Reading Material of Bangka Local Culture Development for Tour and Travel Study Program students of SMK 3 Pangkal Pinang. So similar to other research, CAR, for example, classroom action research, the identification of the title we can see from the verb that is used. There is the characteristic of CAR is improving. So here for development research, the appropriate word is used is developing. Okay, we go to the last slide, perhaps this one. It is what we call the products of development research. There are many actually. Can you imagine from one development research, there will be around 5 products. The first one is the report of the dissertation, the thesis, the skripsi, if it is okay, yeah, for S1, but I don't think that it is okay for S1 students, for S2 and S3 students. The second one is journal, publication for journal, this one, publication for conference, and the other one, publication in order to get hak cipta or intellectual property rights from our government, that is from Menteri Kemenkumham. Okay, now it is when I and my colleague, Ibu Dr. Mahdalena Fianti, and our dean also as the head of our last collaboration research with Flinders University, and we present our research on an international conference ACTA in Flinders. And this one, the product of the students that I have mentioned before, that have been the products of them when they did the development research. The first one, sorry, it is not from Scopus, but it is okay because our study program asks the student focus only to Sinta 2. It's okay for S2 students. Well, I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you for your great attention. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Rita Indrawati, who has enlightened us with her experience and sharing of some of the research she and her students have conducted, particularly in Okay, the first one, Ibu Rita. What must we do to know the students' need in producing product in new normal era, other than knowing from the curriculum? So what we must do to know the students' need in order to produce the product, or maybe it means the learning product suitable for learning in the new era, in the new normal. Okay, you need please unmute your microphone, Ibu Rita, so we can hear you.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you for the question, Ibu Sari. So development research have to start with students' need. And how we know that the student needs. So you know that it is our job, yeah, as a lecturer, to know whether the school have problems, because you know that it is we have built rapport, yeah. Teacher, lecturer have must good rapport in order that we know what happened to the school, what happened to the material, for example, and whatever to the model that they use. So because something happened to the school, for example, the needs analysis, for example, what have been done by Sally, yeah, Sally, one of the student under my advisory, she tried to develop a textbook for my course. It is literature on ELT. So the needs analysis that she tried to find out from the students and from me myself, when after semi interview that she conducted, that yes, there is no textbook that focus on how to perform the drama, for example. So it will be the needs analysis for her to do the research. Another one, for example, we know that vocational students do not have their specific textbook. Their textbook similar to what is used by SMA students. No specification for the textbook. Therefore, from knowing that one, our students try to check by giving questionnaire to the students what they need, what they needed, and they know that they need the text that have something to do with their majoring. For example, tourism majoring students, they only read just general text, descriptive text, but it is general. They need the text that have something to do with their field. For example, descriptive text about tourism, or narrative text about tourism. So it is the needs analysis. We have to dig up the needs analysis by asking them before we go to the field to do the research. That's it, Bu Sari.
Thank you, Ibu Rita. We still have time for one more question, Nova, or two maybe. Okay, let's see the second one. This second question from Ibu Dian. Can we conduct development research in teaching linguistics? And can you give example?
Teaching linguistic. Okay, thank you, Ibu Dian. Conducting development research in teaching linguistic. It depends. So at the first question, I said that we need to know whether the students over there, the student in linguistic course need that one. For example, like this, you have to, you mean here that to develop the textbook, it's okay. For example, the textbook is very unfriendly to the students. Therefore, you need to develop kinds of textbook, or it is too big, yeah, if we say about textbook. We talk about the module, for example. It is very important and very easy to do that. Of course, in teaching linguistics, you know that there is no linguistic book appropriate to our students in Indonesia. So you can create your textbook by following the phases of development research that I mentioned before. So can you give me the example? The example that you have seen classroom. So she wanted to know whether the student need another thing. Of course, they need. What is it? The textbook for performing the drama in English. Therefore, she created. So I have shown you one of the textbook made by her before, yeah. So it is very welcome. It is very okay to develop the material for linguistic. Ibu Dian, thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Rita. We can have one more before we move to the third presentation. Okay, this is from Lala Kholila. In this pandemic era, how do we do quantitative research that requires direct action on the object of the research, where we teach in areas that do not have signal access, so that it is not possible to conduct research online? But it's quite impossible to do it face-to-face because of the physical distancing. So how to make a research, how to do the research, the quantitative that requires direct action, but we have problems with online access, Ibu Rita. So how, what are possibilities, that we can do in this type of situation?
It is too complicated actually, yeah. But in my experience, all the students at Sriwijaya University who live at the remote area can do the research. Okay, online it's okay. So if it is problem for you to have signal access, you can use the very low use of signal, yeah. For example, by using WhatsApp. WhatsApp is can be easily used. For example, when you want to do the interview. But when you said that here for your final assignment, yeah, should I take a qualitative research? Yeah, so.
Yeah, how about switching? How about switching the type of research? Would that be a solution?
So, yeah, still able to do quantitative research. Yeah, so far, yeah, in my experience, I have to talk about the experience. We have done the research on the qualitative paradigm. So for quantitative, it is okay since the data you will get only the data from questionnaire, and you can send your student or the research subject the Google form of the data. You don't have to come to the classroom. Therefore, I said, again and again, in this new normal, we have to build the good rapport to our research subject. Yeah, at least if you don't know someone in a school, please try to change the place that you know exactly. Yeah, so it is neat, and also don't to be. I mentioned before, don't to be tough. Yeah, we must be flexible in doing the research. If you cannot do the research over there, yeah, please go another one. And in my experience and our experience as lecturer at language education, I mean that master program students at Sriwijaya University, they can do the research around 6 months. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, so the keywords here is flexibility and knowing how we can adjust to the situation that we are facing. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Rita Indrawati, for your sharing in the second session.
Thank
I will move to, thank you, Ibu. Now, before I introduce our third presenter, I would like to remind everyone to, if you have not filled out the attendance form, please do it. and the feedback link will be shared at the end of the presentation. So please stay with us. Okay, that is the link, but it's also available in the chat box that you can easily click to get you to the Google form. Okay, now I am going to introduce the third presenter today. I'm honored to introduce my colleague at Sriwijaya University, Dr. Sony Mirizon. Dr. Sony Mirizon earned his doctoral of education from Flinders University in Australia. And he is now the head of language education study program at the master program at Sriwijaya University. Dr. Mirizon's research interests as editor as well as reviewer in numerous journals such as Lingua, the Journal of English Literacy Education, International Journal of Linguistics and Language Teaching, and many other journals. Today, Dr. Sony will talk about the research in pandemic, especially in relation to policy and the strategies that we can do. Okay, Dr. Sony Mirizon, the Zoom floor is yours, and you can share your screen with us.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Sari. Okay, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to our senior, our parents, our mother, Professor Rozaima Dahlandim, for her efforts in supporting SRS-TEFLIN Webinar. And also, I'd like to say thank to the host, Dr. Arkantisari, and then the moderator, Dr. Sari Silviani, and all the committees. I also like to say hello to Ibu Dr. Nelly Martin and Ibu Dr. Rita Indrati. In this occasion, I just like to share what I know, something small maybe not really important, but I just like to share it, concerning what we are facing now, in this COVID-19 pandemic era. I noticed that many of the audience are students from undergraduate degree, and I think this topic is suitable for them, because it is practical. I'm not going to talk about something that is really hard to think, the concept or whatever. No, because Nelly, Martin, Natias has already shared that kind of ideas. And I'm also not going to dig deeper into one kind of research like what Ibu Rita has already shared. I'd rather see this from policy, problem, and possibility, dealing with English language teaching research in the pandemic era. Okay. Can you see my slide, Ibu Sari?
It's Zoom, Pak. It's not your PowerPoint, so you might want to.
Okay. Let me ask the technician.
Stop share this. Just open the PowerPoint first and share.
It's in the. That's it. Can you see that, Bu Sari?
Not yet, Pak Sony.
Not yet. Okay. Wait. Share screen. How about now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, right.
So you might want to have it in full screen slide, so it will be easier. Yes. Very good.
Right.
It looks
okay.
really.
Thank you. Okay, I just like to say something dealing with research in the pandemic era, seeing from the policy from the government and the problem that we face, yeah, and then also the possibility to conduct the research. You know that what? During these 9 months, yeah, actually we are suffering from a pandemic, yeah, not only us in this country, but also everybody around the world, yeah. So we are facing a disruptor of the 21st century, that is COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, we cannot run from it, but we have to face it. Okay, you can see in this slide that the red color indicates that what almost every part of the world has been contaminated by this kind of virus. And if we check, yeah, coronavirus kills everything. Yeah, these are list of products, business habit killed by COVID-19. Yeah, this is the survey done by the Inventure Knowledge. Yeah, there are around 40 business that have been killed by coronavirus. And also these are the snapshot survey findings of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on Indonesian people life. Yeah, from a survey of the 2,000 males and females between 15 to 50 years old in some big cities in Indonesia, we have some finding, yeah, that COVID-19 pandemic, yeah, has already impacted some aspect like study, shopping habit, religious activity, travel plan, job and career, social life, and many others. Yeah, I just documented some biggest one. And then this COVID-19 pandemic era certainly, yeah, affect also political sides. The government tries, yeah, its best to cope with this problem. Yeah. Now, in terms of education, the Ministry of Education and Culture, yeah, has launched some policy. Yeah, I just like to mention some. Yeah. So based on the principle, yeah, Mendikbud or Kemendikbud, yeah, has issued policy dealing with what? Healthy, safety, yeah, is the priority of student, teachers, and education staff. And also Dikti, as a part of the Ministry of Education and Culture, also has taken a step, yeah, or some step like the efficiency and fund reallocation to support pandemic mitigation, yeah, support the medical faculty and hospital in coping with the pandemic, including budget cut, in order to accelerate the pandemic handling. Now, if we look at the university policy, yeah, almost all university across Indonesia has also made policy dealing with this. Yeah. For example, in terms of learning, yeah, university realizes that what student learning right is still fulfilled through online learning. So class is still go on. Yeah, if direct meeting in the classroom is not possible, then the mode is changed into online learning. Yeah. In this case, university has made a free of charge access to learning website and university, and also strengthening Spada platform, free Moodle-based LMS, and Google Classroom. Yeah. Inter-university sharing in this case. And also a kind of assistance has also been taken, yeah, like internet credit assistance for students, logistic assistance for the needy. Yeah. So both public and private universities share and care about students' need through some efforts in the pandemic era. Yeah, as I said before, like internet credit assistance, logistic assistance, UKT cut, this is the tuition fee cut, part-time job provision for some student who badly needs help in this case. Okay, so far, yeah, our government has been implemented some policy, yeah, dealing with education. Like here, the policy dealing with learning from home. No student of university is allowed to go to campus in order to have class. Okay, and then the mode of learning is online learning, and also online administration service, online student advisory, online graduation, yeah. Even practicum and assignment are carried out online. Practicum and assignment not possibly carried out online and moved to the end of semester if it is possible. If it's not possible, then it might be moved to the next semester, but still need to follow the tight COVID-19 protocol. Now, including final project like thesis, yeah, the students had to write is what directed to use secondary data. Yeah. Should the laboratory be used, tight COVID-19 protocol also apply. But there is a principle in this case. Yeah. As I said before, student, teachers, and education staff, healthy and safety must become the priority. Campus must not become a new cluster of COVID-19 spread, and academic year start according to the academic calendar. Yeah, like Unsri now. Yeah, usually the new academic year start in early August, but this year for the new student, we are starting the activity in the second week of September. Yeah, and also teaching and learning activity must go on through online mode, especially for the theory. Now, looking at that, okay, looking at the policy, and if we are trying to connect it into research, then problems occur. Yeah. At least there's two questions here. How is research conducted during the COVID-19 pandemic era? And which kind of research that can be conducted in the COVID-19 pandemic? Okay, certainly research on site is difficult to do in this case. Yeah, not possible to meet people because we need to keep the distance. Yeah, direct intervention is not possible because what? Yeah, no direct meeting, no face-to-face meeting in the classroom. Even direct observation is constrained. Yeah, if you are going to conduct a study or research that needs observation, moreover, like in ethnography, yeah, participatory observation, then it is not possible to do. You are constrained if you want to do it directly. And face-to-face interview is also constrained, including subject participation decreases. These are problems that we cannot ignore. Okay, from this problem, another question is what? Which kind of research that can be conducted in the COVID-19 pandemic? Yeah, it seems maybe why don't the government, for example, free students from doing research, for example, because of this pandemic? Yeah, some people offer that kind of option. Now, the question is, should English language teaching research stop? Okay. No problems in ELT need to be solved. Yeah. ELT needs continuing innovation in this case, and other problems need assistance from ELT research. And certainly scientific responsibility, yeah, from the student, the teachers, the researchers, it requires us to do research continuously, no matter whether we have pandemic or not. So the point is what? The show must go on. We may not stop. Okay. Now, conducting ELT research in the pandemic era. Remember, we need to avoid this. Close space, close contact, and crowded place. These are three most common jargon that we heard every day, everywhere, yeah, especially from the mass media. Yeah, close space, close contact, and crowded space need to be avoided. Now, related to that, in doing ELT research, yeah, there are some tips that maybe can be shared or can be thought of to do. In this case, if we have planned a research that needs direct contact before, maybe we need to reschedule the research. Okay, and we need to change our mindset, as Bu Nelly said before. Yeah, we need to get used to the internet. Okay, and modify research method if direct data collection on site is not possible. Certainly, if it is not possible for us to get the data directly, then we need to modify the research method in data collection. And also, we need to consider to modify data analysis method. So how is research conducted during this pandemic era? Okay, one possible way is through internet-based research. Why internet? Yeah, internet in this case is a tool to do research, and internet as a place to do research. So not only a tool now, but also become a place to do research. Now we can use information available in the internet without direct physical interaction with human subject in this case. And also we use internet as a means of intervention if it is possible. Yeah, maybe some people ask, is that possible to do intervention through the internet? Okay, we'll see it later, yeah. And also we can use internet to recruit research subject. Okay, we don't need to invite them directly, physically, but we can recruit the participant, the research participant in this case, through the internet. And we could also do research about internet itself and its impact on the uses of the internet. So the point is what? We need to change our mindset from taking data directly on site to online through the internet. Okay, so maybe if you are doing on internet-based research, then we are dealing with this kind of thing. Online library, online survey through email, online survey through website, online survey through Google Form, for example. Even online focus group discussion, online interview, and online tests. These are all dealing with data collection technique. Yeah? So it is possible. Now, why should we do the internet? Because internet have some benefits in conducting research. Yeah, like this one, the availability of many data that can be easily assessed. Internet can speed up sample selection process because it provides various group of participants who can be assessed. And also there are many platforms that can be, many platforms that can facilitate cheap research practices, user-friendly and sophisticated to collect and analyze data like Google Scholar, Microsoft Academic, Wikimedia, ResearchGate, etc., etc. Those platforms are very useful actually. And also, internet provides new opportunities to do various observation research, various observation research by looking at people online, online behavior in this case. But at the same time, conducting research, through internet also has some problem. Like here, we have many inaccurate information. The combination of internet data with offline source. In this case, we need to combine internet data with offline source, and we use various kind of sources like iSeek, ReadSeek, and Academic Index. These are search engine actually, and also internal validity problem if we are dealing with the internet-based research. For example, dealing with sample characteristic, instrumentation, for example. Now, in this case, we can get some sample through various online sources. And also we can use anonymous questionnaire. The another problem is low response rate. Suppose we are inviting participant online, to our research, and maybe some of them responded, some of them did not respond yet. In this case, we can send message personally if we know the contact number or the social media contact in this case. Do not send it only once. If you need, you can contact them again and again. Okay. Now, what research are possible? What research methods are possible to implement during COVID-19 pandemic? I'd like to share some here. For example, here we have researching text and documents. If you are researching text on document, as long as you can access the text, the documents, either online or offline, then it could become the data. You can do a research based on this text and document. Or autoethnography. You research yourself. Some aspect of yourself, for example, that you want to do. Or maybe, this is the bigger scope, that is digitized research. Doing research through internet. Okay. Okay, some possible topics. Yeah. These are only possibilities. Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? It could inspire about what topic to choose to do the internet-based research. For example, here we have a topic dealing with problems in ELT during learning from home in the area of English language teaching. And also, for example, about parents' tension in preparing and assisting children in online classroom during COVID-19, for example, dealing with applied linguistic area. Or maybe about power of knowledge and community social class above COVID-19 pandemic information and on social media, for example, dealing with some socio-linguistic matters. Another possible topic, for example, EFL class must go online, teaching learning activities and challenges during COVID-19, for example, and it deals with English language teaching, yeah? Or maybe in search of the most appropriate online platform to learn English during COVID-19 pandemic, also in the area of English language teaching. Or even increasing student writing ability in online learning through Google Classroom, for example, if you are interested in doing intervention. Yeah, it doesn't mean that if you are doing intervention, then it should be in the class. You can also do it online. So the classroom is online. Another possible topic, for example, the role of media and the impacts on society fear about COVID-19 pandemic. If you are interested in doing a study dealing with discourse analysis, for example, or linguistic study on new terminologies related to COVID-19 pandemic, for example, dealing with morphology, discourse war between hoax and factual news about COVID-19 and its impact on society's social attitude, for example, if you are interested in digging deeper discourse analysis in terms of critical discourse analysis. Okay, so those are some possible topics. There are lots of possible topics that somebody can think of and do research. Now, how about the strategies? Certainly, there are some applicable strategies. Yeah, like if you're interested in content and text analysis, you can do it via online or corpus. You can do online interview. Certainly, you need consent from participant. Yeah. Even in our country, that kind of research ethic is not really matters, yeah, but it is important to have this kind of consent from the participant. Even online interactive observation, yeah, through focus group discussion or social media. Experiment or test conducted online from home, also possible. Text analysis, maybe curriculum, website, lesson plan that you are interested to research in, also possible. Or even online ELT learning media design, also possible to do. How about data collection technique? Yes, certainly, since we are dealing with internet-based research, we need to use a platform for online discussion. We need to do elicitation using photo, video, voice, for example, in collecting the data. And also, we can use mobile probes in this case, yeah, in terms of data to complete. Also, completing story online, for example, using group in Facebook, using Google Form, that kind of thing. And there are many other techniques that are possible to do to get the data of the research. Now, these are some examples, yeah, that I took from some sources dealing with what people have done during the pandemic era, or not pandemic era, but based on online research. Yeah. For example, this one, a topic about an experiential learning perspective on student satisfaction model in a flipped classroom context, for example. The data are available actually, yeah, about flipped classroom model, student perception of flipped setting, experiential learning theory, and the method of data collection could be through, yeah, flipped classroom longitudinal survey questionnaire in this case. This is the example of the research, yeah, conducted online that has been published in a journal. I think you can later browse the internet and try to find out the complete version of this article. So the first one is dealing with survey. And the next is dealing with experimental study, also possible. Yeah, for example, a study in cyber asynchronous versus blended cyber approach in distant learning, in distant English learning, for example. The data could be taken from what? Cyber asynchronous model and also blended cyber approach and student scores in this case. And the data collection method could be through English test, pretest, and push test, since this is dealing with the experiment. Okay, this is the study that was done by G from Beijing University, dealing with online research. The next, case study. Case study is also possible. Yeah. For example, a study about synchronous and asynchronous e-language learning. Okay. The data are available in terms of synchronous learning, asynchronous learning, or university student experience in learning using both models. And the data collection are dealing with observation of the communication and performance on given channels, student opinion, on the graded discussion board, survey questionnaire. Okay, and this is a study. Yeah, study done by Pervin, a case study, and has been published in an international journal. The next, about autoethnography, for example. Yeah. For example, here we have the topic, the use of social networking site for foreign language learning, an autoethnographic study of Live Mocha, for example. Live Mocha is a kind of social media, okay, or platform. And then the data available, yeah, about social networking in Live Mocha, for example, and questions on aspect of socio-collaborative principle and practice. And the data collection method could be self-aware participation, learner diaries, and peer briefing in this case. This is the study by Clark and Gruber, yeah, and also conducted online. So they actually observe online audience or community in doing this kind of study. The next, ethnography. Ethnography is an ethnographic approach to study communities that exist primarily online. Okay, I take this example from a study about the use of social networking site for foreign language learning. This is an autoethnographic. Ini kayaknya keliru nih. Okay, I'm sorry, this mismatch here, yeah. But this is the example, okay, about ethnography. Yeah, actually this is ethnography, but conducted online. That's why we call it ethnography. Another topic that is possible is research dealing with narrative inquiry. Yeah, for example, in English teachers online participation as professional development, a narrative story. Yeah, and it has been conducted by PACE. Yeah, so a narrative study, but conducted online, since not possible for the researcher to access the participant directly. The next is phenomenology, also possible. Yeah? For example, the topic is about a phenomenological study of graduate Chinese student English writing challenges, for example. And the data available are student experience in English writing and also demographic data. The data could be collected through semi-structured interview or maybe through participants writing sample and also written tasks. This is the example and has been published in the qualitative report, one of Q1 Scopus Index here. Also possible to do a resource analysis. Like the example here, power of knowledge and community social class about COVID-19 pandemic information on social media, for example. And this one has also been conducted by Indonesian people, yeah? Indonesian people by Sulistianing Tias and friends, yeah? So the next, content analysis, for example. Yeah. How Jokowi communicates with public during COVID-19 crisis. An analysis on Twitter, for example. Okay. This study was done by Indonesian people. Yeah. He basically only observed, yeah, Twitters. Yeah. How our president during this pandemic communicate to Indonesian people. So he doesn't need to go somewhere in order to collect data, but only observing the Twitter, the social media. Okay, I think that's all that I can share. Yeah, because of the time, it's already 12. I need to stop. Maybe there are some questions. You're welcome. If I can answer it, I will answer it. Okay, thank you, Bu Sari.
Thank you very much, Pak Sony. We will have some questions for related to your topic. The committee might, if you have that on the screen, you may show it to us. Okay, let's see the first question. Okay, Pak Sony, can we alter a field research of English education into a literary research? So considering the physical distancings, is it a possible way to alter the field research?
Yeah, what does he mean by literary research actually?
Yeah, whether it is related to interpretation of literary work. Yeah, so
It is possible.
Okay,
Because what?
I think it is literature reviews, Simin.
It
Literature,
could be a literature review, whether it's a literary,
literature field.
Okay.
library
Okay, so
research.
can we do a literature review for the research, meaning that we are using secondary data? Yes, why not? Yeah, certainly. Basically, in conducting research during this pandemic is what not to have a direct contact. How to get rid of this thing? And the only possibility is not seeing people directly to collect the data. Yeah, maybe through library research or do it online. That's the only choice. Yeah. So if the question is this, can we alter a field of research, English education, into a literature review research? Yes, certainly it is possible. For example, you can do a research dealing with what other people has written, yeah, in terms of review research, for example. Yeah, what topic has been discussed? It is possible. Or you can also, for example, do a content analysis, for example, researching books or texts. You don't need to go somewhere. As long as you can access the data online or offline, certainly you can do it. I think that's all, Bu Sari.
Okay, this is something related to internet-based research. How to solve the problem if you collect data on the internet? For example, only a few participants are willing to take the time to fill in or answer your instrument. Yeah.
Again, it depends on which kind of research. Yeah. If you are dealing with qualitative research and you need only a few number of participants, you don't need to be worried about that. But if you are conducting a survey that needs big number of people, take their contact them. If they did not respond, contact them again. If it is not possible, find other participant. Certainly, you need to think about the participant. Yeah, the participants should be the one, yeah, who have similar characteristic as your main sample of participants. I think that's all.
Media to reach out to people. Some of the participants in our webinar suggested a very good solution. One of the participants said, participate in ResearchGate. You know, sometimes they post questions in there, And you can do something like that too. Post a question in there. And because ResearchGate is researcher focused social media, so I think there will be many prospective participants willing to respond to your survey instead of a very large number in your social media who might not be in the field of education or researcher, but with the focus social media for researchers, it might broaden your change.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I just like to give the example dealing with the second question. Right now we are conducting a collaborative research, yeah, with a university in Sudan. And the last 2 years, we could directly go there to collect the data. But during this pandemic, it is not possible. But we have a job to do. We need 300 pre-service teachers to respond to a questionnaire. And then in this case, we only use Google Form. We contact somebody who's in charge, we send the Google Form and ask them to fill it in. And we get the data instantly within 2 or 3 days. Okay, and the other data collection are through focus group discussion and interview. Then certainly, first of all, we let them know about the topic and what will be asked. Then we set online mode like Zoom to carry out the focus group discussion and also the interview. So possible.
Okay, yeah, so in addition to limitation that we also have some possibilities of doing it through different ways. And see if we have another question. I think there's one more question. Okay, to Pak Sony.
One more, I think. Yeah. How
Yeah,
can our
one more
data
question.
valid? If we
How
take
can
it from the
we find
internet.
So possibly,
again.
yeah, the validity of the data, Pak Sony. Maybe you can address that issue. And I think a lot of us also think about how we address the issue of validity.
Yeah, certainly we need to refer to which kind of research first. Yeah, if you are dealing with quantitative research, certainly you need to fulfill, yeah, the requirement about validity and reliability. Yeah. Also, if you are conducting qualitative study, okay, make sure you also carry out the validity in this case. Yeah. So the only difference is only a means of collecting the data. Yeah. So rules about validity, even online or offline, is the same. Actually, we need to fulfill it. For example, if you are conducting a case study online, for example, through interview, yeah, you can collect the data using Zoom, for example, or Google Meet or whatever. Yeah. Once you get the data, you transcribe it. Okay. You do some coding process. Okay. After you finish the coding process, you have the transcript. I mean, you show again the transcript to the respondent, have member checking to check whether they are in the same opinion to what we have already recorded. Okay, that kind of thing. And then we can process it through. Yeah, we fulfill all the requirements that is demanded by the research. Okay, it doesn't mean that when we are doing online research, then we do it as we like. Yeah? It depends again. Yeah, we go back to the rules of doing the research itself.
Okay.
Yes, that's all. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Sony. Now we can have a session for any questions to all the panelists. I'm sure we have some questions that we didn't have a chance to address in the previous session. Now we can go back to some of the questions. And before we do that, for all the panelists, I would like to know about what you do or your strategy to do the research. Of course, you already talk about some of the possibilities and some of the adjustment that we do. What is it? What is the particular to do it in this time of pandemic? Pak Sony or Bu Nelly or Bu Rita?
I cannot hear you, Bu Sari.
Sorry,
Oh,
you
okay,
got
sorry.
cut off. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, before we see other questions, we also would like to know how you deal with the challenges or the strategy you do in your line of work. Of course, you do some adjustment with requirement for social distancing, but what are the things that you face and then the strategy you use to solve the problem in regard of what particular problem that you face in your research, in your line of work right now, that you have to do it with the consideration of social distancing? I hope that my voice is not cut off.
Oh yeah, you're good. Yeah.
All the panelists.
Okay, so if I can share something, currently I'm working with my other colleagues from London School of Economic and Public Policy, and also AUT in Wellington, Victoria University of Wellington. We are currently doing research on how COVID-19 has impacted New Zealand and the UK. And then for sure, the thing is, we do need to understand that New Zealand is one of the safest countries right now in terms of COVID-19. So it will be a very different dynamic with Indonesia. But then when I was doing this research, when we were in level 2, meaning that, or level 1, meaning that we are already safe, for 100 days, we didn't have any patients in COVID, so zero. I was interviewing my participants face to face because we wouldn't need to do the physical distancing anymore, or the 2 meters away from each other. But then Auckland, since a couple of weeks ago, when we went to the Auckland lockdown, because there was a transmission community identified, there were a number of new COVID patients. That's when we needed to move from the face-to-face interview to the Zoom interview with my research participants. So in that situation, we were very flexible. We needed to be very flexible because the research needs to go on. And then it's our mindset and our strategies that we needed to change as well, because we don't want to put our participants into risk, and we don't want to put ourselves into risk. So Zoom is one of the ways to overcome this problem. And another way is that one of my participants, she was technologically challenged, so she was not comfortable enough in using Zoom. So in that very situation, I switched to the platform that she feels comfortable to, and then in that case is her WhatsApp. So my bottom line is that rather than treating these challenges as issues or problems that will hinder our research activities, we needed to think of the ways, not only from our point of view, but also from the researchers' point, from the research participants' point of view, in a way that everyone is not put into dangers. And then when everyone was able to facilitate themselves with the kind of technology that we can use. So WhatsApp, and then, well, if you can provide Zoom, that will be okay. And another thing is that I do understand that in New Zealand, our internet connection is really good. So maybe what I'm sharing here may not be applicable to some of the conditions or situations with our fellow friends in Indonesia, where maybe the internet connection is not really good or is not really stable. But then in that, I feel like, rather than, again, this is, if we approach this from a critical researcher's point of view, the fact that we were not able to conduct research because of the technological issues, it's actually a finding. It's actually a finding itself. because so rather than saying that, oh, I'm not able to do that, why don't you just write it down as part of your research journey? That is one of the challenges that we encounter during this global pandemic, that we as researchers residing in Indonesia, we were not able to conduct research face-to-face because of the physical distancing. And then when we wanted to move away from the traditional face-to-face interaction, we were not able to use the internet connection. That is another finding. So that can be the set of data that we can use for autoethnography, you know? So it's just like a different mindset of research, because I feel like many of us are still thinking that research should be something that we needed to approach in very quantitative point of view with a kind of instrument. But then we are moving away from that perspective. Everything that we find in the field, it's actually finding itself. So yeah, I hope that I do make myself clear.
Right, very clear, Dr. Nelly. So even the challenges are opportunity for us to explore from different perspectives. So instead of focusing on how I can find participants or how I can conduct the research with this limited technology access, so think about what we have within ourselves.
Yes.
I know this might not be something very popular in Indonesia, but I think we started to recognize autoethnography as a research. I mean, before it might be questioned, like how you do that, but now it becomes a type of research that gain traction in especially in qualitative research.
Exactly.
And yeah, and we might explore that in more deep in a different session possibly. It's a very interesting approach. Okay, Pak Sony or Ibu Rita would like to answer the question that I
Ibu
asked
Rita,
earlier.
maybe.
Ibu Rita first. Okay, go ahead, Ibu Rita. Your microphone, Bu Rita.
Well, I hear from Ibu Nelly Martin that it is very interesting quotation this day. What is it? The last word that we said, that what we found in the field is our finding itself. It is good point, I think. Yeah. So after presenting my paper, I just read some question and answer in this Q&A, and there are many questions asked about research, and I cannot handle it. Yeah, but at least I found two different, at least similar things. That is about how to do the research, and then it is valid because it is the research used online learning. Therefore, I said you have to add one of the variable for your research is the use online learning, and you know that you only change the mode of learning. So traditionally we do it at classroom. Now we do it in front of a laptop like this. So it is also valid as long as there is the permission from the school or our dignas, for example, and it is also good for them to do it by face to face like this. I mean like this, when he or she do the research, experimental study research, so the students, all the participants should face to face like us now. So we can see directly what happened to the students in doing the research. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ibu Rita. Pak Sony? Are you still with us? Oh, okay. I'm not sure if we still have us. I think it's possibly some problem, but since it's already 12:22, I would like to remind all the participants to fill out the exit ticket. It's very short. It's actually feedback for us, so we can improve our webinar in the future. The committee member already posted it in the chat box. This is the link. Unfortunately, it's not clickable from the screen, but you can see it in the chat box. And while you're doing that, I would like to give a conclusion of our discussion today before we end our webinar. So in this unprecedented time, we face challenges in conducting our professional work, including teaching and research. Anymore. We are limited by the physical distancing that we must do in order to curb the spread of the virus. Consequently, we need to rethink and adjust our research. Dr. Martin Anatias has reminded us to think about ourselves, our identities, both personal and professional. We need to think about what is important for us, what is our focus, what interests me, and how I see it. Dr. Indrawati has suggested a research development approach, particularly in material development, as the type of research we could possibly do during the physical distancing. And our last panelist, Dr. Mirizon, suggested the internet-based research that we can possibly do, whether it involves participants or archival resource. For example, researching texts and documents available online, doing autoethnography, and digitizing research. That means we need to adjust our approach from face-to-face to online. And all the panelists have shown us that amid the pandemic changes, we also have some opportunities to explore different areas of research, something that we have never done before. We can try that out. So I think that's all what I can conclude from our presentations today. I really appreciate all the presenters who have shared with us and enlighten us with their experience and knowledge regarding research. As a moderator, I am very grateful that for all the participant attendance and active participation through questions. Unfortunately, we might not be able to address all your questions, but this can be something that we think about for our future program. Thank you very much. That's all from me. I will hand it back to the host, Dr. Artantisari. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Ibu Sari, Ibu Nelly, Ibu Rita, and Pak Soni for the lively and fruitful presentations and discussion. Apologies for not having enough time to answer all of the questions from the participants. To our participants, thank you so very much for staying with us. I would like to use this opportunity to inform you that SRS-TEFLIN will conduct an international webinar in December 2020. One of the presentations will be about the process of internationally co-editing and publishing a book, which will be led by Sari Silviani, PhD, and Beth Samuelson, PhD. It will consist of chapters. The book will consist of chapters of autoethnography from various students in different countries. Another will be on conducting autoethnography by Ibu Nali Martin, PhD, inshallah. So please be with us in December. We will also have other presentations in the webinar, which includes the topics of teaching and research involving scholars from Indonesia and also abroad. We will keep you posted on the information about the exact date and exact time of the webinars through SRS-TEFLIN Facebook and Instagram pages, as well as SRS-TEFLIN website. So please subscribe to our website and YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, and follow our Instagram to obtain information on our upcoming webinars. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to extend our deepest appreciation for your attendance. We hope to have you in our future webinars. Good afternoon and have a nice weekend. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank
Kia
you.
ora. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Nelly.
Bye,
Thank you
Nelly.
all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you all for
Ya,
our
ditunggu
loyal
bulan
participants.
Desember.
Ditunggu
Insya
bulan Desember. Ya, insya Allah.
Inshallah in December we'll meet again.
Yes.
Yes.
We will have more interesting presentations for you. Ibu Rita and Pak Soni are also invited to present in the webinar. Maybe perhaps we can have sessions for each
Joint
of
session.
each of the types of research. Like Ibu Rita can present a little bit more detail about research and development, and Pak Soni maybe can also share about narrative inquiry, for example. I guess it will be very exciting, and I am really looking forward to December. Thank you very much, Ibu
We will
Rita.
have also our students.
Yes,
Nelly,
we will
we are going to have
Our
our
master
students
student
later
registration.
Yeah.
to present.
SRS-TEFLIN has also planned to have ongoing seminars starting from October, November. We will have students presenting their research or ongoing research to you. Maybe we invite your presence in those webinars so that you can gain insights and also give comments or suggestions to our students. Looking forward, very much looking forward, Ibu Huzai. Thank you very much, Ibu Huzai, Ibu Rita, Pak Soni, Nelly. Nelly is my friend, so I call her Nelly. Adindaku juga. Sari, Adindaku juga, Sari and Nova, Hari, Rizky, Nyimas, all of you have
the committee.
done a great job. I think this is a very successful webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really, really
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Assalamualaikum. Ya, it's
Buat
almost
pempek
maghrib.
dewe ya.
Bagus maghrib
Karena
ya.
makan pempek buat
Have a good
dewe.
evening.
Iya.
Lunch will be provided by Gosen, Ibu. Ibu Huzai, no?
From New Zealand.
From New Zealand.
You already
New
cooked.
Zealand.
Yeah. I haven't
Ajak
been
Pak
to New
ini,
Zealand.
Pak Tantowi, Bu Nelly.
Oh iya.
Iya, ajak dia kan dari Palembang.
Oh iya, betul ya. Betul, Bu. Ya.
Ya.
Okay.
Ya.
Okay, thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, I will end the meeting. See you later.
See you later.
Okay, see you later. Online and offline.
Yeah.